Hey friends, okay, so today's video, I'm going to talk about God's mercy. I'm going to share with you some pretty vulnerable stories that I feel God's asking me to share with you. I think sometimes when God shows us mercy, it's not how we think it's going to be. Sometimes I think we think it's like Him giving us everything we want, but really He sees the full picture and He knows why things are happening. So, and there are kind of two different things. There's God's mercy, and then there are people who maybe sin against us. God gave us all free will, and so that is a totally different topic. But I'm talking about like circumstances that are painful and hard, and you don't understand why you're going through them at the time. But then later in life, God kind of lets you see why He did what He did. So anyway, today's video is all about that. Divine Mercy Sunday is coming up, and so I wanted to share this with you. So pretty much, the first story that I want to share with you is probably my most vulnerable. Back in the day, before I met Eric, I lived out in Hawaii, and I worked with a Catholic ministry out there called In Him Ministries. And pretty much it was a group of like 20-year-olds, and we were evangelizing. Different churches would like hire us to evangelize to their children. And I loved it. I was there for 2 years, and I was a program director. I loved what I did. I felt like I was really good at it. So then what happened was, it's pretty much like a school year. So you have the summers off, and then during the school year, you come back to the ministry. And I had no intention on leaving. I loved my job, like I said. I felt good about it. I love the people I worked with, everything. And so actually on Divine Mercy Sunday, my boss asked me if I could like come have a meeting with him. And so of course I was like, yeah, sure. So we had a meeting, and at that meeting he pretty much fired me, and I was blindsided. I couldn't understand why. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what I did wrong, like why he was letting me go. And so pretty much I ended up like staying the rest of the year, you know, to like finish out the year. But the whole time I was so embarrassed because we worked with a team of people. I think there were like 6 or 7 people on the team. And then we also worked with the youth, and then we also worked with young adults. So pretty much like everyone I knew that I was fired, and I was still working. And it was just so embarrassing and painful. So I ended up like booking a ticket home and going home, and the whole summer, and I had another job lined up. I was going to be a nanny for somebody I met in Hawaii, and it turned out to be an amazing job. But the whole summer I didn't tell my mom and my dad that I was fired. I was just so embarrassed, and I didn't know why. And I asked the guy who fired me, like, why? Was there something I did that was wrong? Like, is there something I can fix, you know, or whatever? And he's like, no, I just feel like we're called to go in a different direction. And so I was like, okay, you know. So anyway, go home and then go to this new job. And 2 years later, was it 2 years? Yeah, 2 years later, I finally met my husband and things turned out great. But it was very interesting to me because looking back now, I think it's really providential, very interesting, because I remember it being Divine Mercy Sunday when I got let go, and I was just so mortified. And I was like, God, like, how merciful is this? Like, you just like let me go on Divine Mercy Sunday of all days. I realized later that I would have not really met my husband, or it would have been much later in life if I didn't go the path that God was making me go, because I was in a job that I loved. I just didn't want to leave. I would have lived in Hawaii forever, and God knew that if I were there forever, like, that was not His plan. It was all very painful for me, but now looking back, I see exactly God's hand in it. And so so it's very interesting to look back, and I just find it so fascinating that it was on Divine Mercy Sunday that He let me go. That's the day I was fired, and you know, I finished out that year, but it was so humbling and embarrassing and everything. I still to this day don't know why He let me go. It must have been the Holy Spirit. I have to trust that that's, you know, what happened, because He's a good guy who let me go, and things like that. So that's the first story. you know, I want to share these stories because I think it's good to hear other people's stories, because there's things that in our life where we don't understand. It doesn't make sense at this time. And so when we hear other people's stories, it kind of softens our heart and we're like, oh, maybe that's what's going on with me. What is God doing in my life? So the second story is getting pregnant a third time. I had Thomas, had Jacob, and I was extremely overwhelmed. Very, very overwhelmed with those two, just being a new mom. And I have 5 now, and that was the hardest for me. The transition was having 2. So I was adamant that I was not going to have any more children till after we moved. So we were moving to China. Of all places, we were moving to China. And so I was adamant, like, nope. So we went to NFP classes. I figured out, I thought I knew how to do NFP. So I used NFP, and by the grace of God, I was really bad at NFP. And what I mean, I just like, the tracking, like, it didn't make sense. It totally does now. But at the time, it just kind of was gray. I didn't quite get it. Anyway, I ended up getting pregnant, and right before we moved to China, like literally the day that I found out, the movers were coming to my house to pick up everything and moving it away. And so I actually just took the pregnancy test because I was like, oh, I won't need this for a long time. So I took the test, put it on, you know, on the back of the toilet or whatever, and then I just cleaned the house the rest of the day. Like, I didn't even think about it. And then later that day, by the grace of God, like 10 minutes before my husband got home, I went into the bathroom for some reason and saw the test, and my heart dropped. And I was like, oh my God, like pure panic, like mortified. I put a show on for the boys, and I just like paced in my house, like, how am I going to do this? I can't give birth to a son in China. Like, that was like, I don't know anything there. I want them born in America. Like, I don't understand what's going on, you know, all the things. But I realize now, having my son Zachary, who is such a miracle and such a blessing, that I can't imagine, I'm gonna cry. I can't imagine my life without him. And so in God's amazing mercy, I was horrible at NFP, like figuring it out. And I think I just want to share with you, if there is a time, you know, maybe you get pregnant and you weren't planning on it, you have poor health, you have all these things, like financially, you don't know, like there's just so much. We have to trust in God's mercy during those times. And we have to trust that this is His will. I mean, for somebody to get pregnant is completely a miracle. Like, everything in your body, all the chemicals, like it all has to line up for you to get pregnant. Like, anyway, it was terrifying. I was so terrified, and I was like, Eric, I cannot go with you to China. I can't do that. I went to the car. I saw him drive up. I went down to the car. I got in the car and I said, I'm pregnant. I can't go with you. And I just started bawling for the first time. And he just like, I think I shocked him. He's like, Heather, it's okay. Please come with me. Like, I can't do this without you. Like, he really wanted me to go with him. Meanwhile, I was like, I'll just live with my mom. Like, I can't do this. He talked me into it. I ended up spending most of my pregnancy in China, but I gave birth in America. And it all worked out beautifully. But it was one of those things where I'm like, God, why did you let this happen? What is going on? And now looking back, like, it's such God's mercy. Like, it is so beautiful. Zachary, I can't, like I said, I can't imagine life without him. I can't imagine life without any of my children. And that's how it is. Like, it's scary to not know what's gonna happen. All my ducks were in a row, like all the things, but God has it. He has a plan. And He has a plan for everything. He really does. God is so intentional on what He does for us and why He does it. It might not make sense, but His love for us runs so deep, deeper than we could ever possibly imagine. And I'm going through something right now where I just like needed to be reminded of God's mercy and how good He is, and it's all in His hands. Like, I don't have control. He does. And sometimes he puts us through those times because he wants us to draw closer to him. Like that, and that he's God. He can do that. He has a right to do that. He is King of all kings. I just encourage you, like, if there's something that you're struggling with, you know, maybe it's your health, maybe it's finances, maybe it's a baby, maybe somebody lost a job, you know, trust in God, pray, hope, and don't worry. You know, that's what Padre Pio said. Pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Give it all to God. You know, we are Easter people. We believe that Christ is risen. We believe that he intentionally made us and loves us, and he has a plan for us. And so I just want to remind you of that. Those are two of many stories where I'm like, God, what are you doing? Why is this happening right now? You know, but those two just came to heart to share with you. And so I just wanted to give that to you. God is so good. He loves us individually so much. And he has a plan for you. He has a purpose. He has a reason. And we have to fully trust that. And so anyway, that's my message this week. I hope that y'all had a great Easter and you are having a great Easter. And I hope you have an awesome Divine Mercy Sunday. God bless. Bye.